and welcome to another video. I am Simply G, and today I'm going to be showing off all of the manga and novels and light novels, etc. that I got for this month of June. There's quite a bit to get here, a lot of new releases, which is really exciting. So rather than spend too long on this intro, I'll get straight into it, and I hope you guys enjoy. Have some merchandise. This is from Kyoto Animation, as per expected for me. This is the last in this particular series of birthday clear files for the free Iwatobi Swim Club characters. Although I think this is now for free the final stroke, which is obviously the most recent entry to this grand franchise. Okay, sorry, I'm not going to show this quite yet, but next year is the 10-year anniversary of the first season, and I crumbled away into dust because I cannot believe it's been a decade of me like being overly attached to these dumb swimming boys. But anyway, I just couldn't believe. Anyway, so this is for the thanks birthday or special day line. We have Asahi front and back for that clear file, and then Kisumi front and back. So that means that this set is completed. Honestly, like, I'm a sucker, so I invested in these, but I don't think this particular line of artwork was that great. I think KyoAni has definitely done better, even especially with their theming, and the new year's ones that have just started. Haruka's has just been released late last month, because that's when his birthday is so beautiful, and the couple other characters whose art has been revealed already, I'm just like, oh god, I thought I was done, but I know that I will never be done. Additionally, with those, I got a couple flyers for their upcoming work. So we have one for Free the Final Stroke, which is the second movie, I think, or the most recent movie. I don't remember if this movie is in 2 parts or not. I don't remember. It doesn't matter. Anyway, I haven't seen it yet because obviously, but I'm looking forward to it. And then this is also for this next one, I believe, is for Sorone, maybe the movie, the upcoming movie coming out. It says the 19th of August, so I assume so, but I don't actually know. And this is another series that I really enjoy, sports series from Kyoto Animation, so I'm looking forward to the movie, you know, as per always. But yeah, that's all the merchandise that I got, quick and to the point. So some manga. As always, I'll start with the debuts and one-shots that came out this month. Quite a few, putting it mildly. So first up, we have the debut print title for this publisher, at least that I've received. I've also ordered their other print titles, but I haven't gotten them yet. This is the first of their print books that I actually have. This is The Town of Pigs by Hideshi Hino, put out by Starfruit Books, a very small boutique publisher that is doing amazing things. Love them, love the team. They just are fantastic. Hideshi Hino is one of the pillars of horror manga, in my opinion, and this is very, very influential, impactful one of his works. I have read this. It's amazingly good. I remember reading there, so it also comes with a postcard, just by the way. And when I tweeted that I'd received this, the kind of foreperson, the owner of Starfruit Books actually messaged me privately and was like, you're the only person in Australia who has this book. And I'm like, oh my god. Oh my god. Hopefully only because the Australian distributor or comic stores that are hoping to stock this haven't gotten their copies yet. So, you know, the positives of me paying exorbitant shipping fees to get this and not have to wait when it was first announced might outweigh, you know, the timeliness. But very happy to have it. I read a review from a very prominent anime news website, whom we all know and maybe don't love. And I don't typically, reviews are reviews and everyone's entitled to their opinion, but I do think it's important to mention that review noted that there's not any kind of personal history or biography about Hino in this. There's no kind of contextual notes pertaining to this work in particular, which the reviewer found kind of a disappointment, because with context of Hino's life, some of the twist and some of the context to this book might make more sense. I will say that I went into this not knowing really much about Hino's life at all. I was aware of Hino. I hadn't read any of his works because they are extremely out of print in English up until now. But I didn't know his personal history or background. And I found it quite... I didn't have an issue or a problem figuring out what all of this allegorically meant, what Hino was trying to say with this. I think it's pretty straightforward, and the fact that, having read that review, that the author thought about it in regards to the American occupying forces, which I don't think is... I'm not gonna say, like, it's stupid to think that, or dumb, or whatever, because I don't, but I do think that it's a very America-centric view, and... looking at this as a Japanese work, from the Japanese perspective, and having read the whole thing and reading the twist, I thought it was very obvious as to what the allegory was. And having, after the fact, read about Hino's life, honestly, it just makes the pigs thing a bit more obvious. Not metaphorically what it meant, but like why he used pigs versus a different sort of animal. I don't know. That's really the only like clarification that got, but I don't think it's needed. That of course might be because of my brilliant deductioning skills, but I don't think so. Like I don't think it's necessary to know about a creator's entire life to enjoy their work or to get meaning out of their work. And I would also say that if you do find a meaning from a title or a series that isn't, supported by the context of the original creator, that's also valid. I always bring up, like, a good example of this is Fullmetal Alchemist and the war against the Ishbalans. When that original anime series was coming out, a lot of US fans likened it to the war in Iraq and ongoing Afghanistan conflicts. Like, Arakawa was talking about war, and she was definitely, like, drawing from real life conflicts, but not real life American conflicts. She has said that she had been going back and looking at the kind of oppression of the Ainu people in Japan's multitude of involvement throughout the Second World War. Like, I don't know, but I don't think it's invalid to find those kind of parallels between that and like an American perspective. That's what death of an author kind of implies, is that people like to use that phrase for like allowing people to enjoy work without, like, even if the creator is a bad person, which is also like fine. You can find good morals and messages and not agree with, you know, the creator's personal views. But death of an author typically means that, I mean, academically means that you can still, like, taking away an author's experience and context culturally and socially and of the time period doesn't mean you therefore don't have any kind of message, or you can't gain something from a work that is otherwise outside of your perspective or your realm or your time period. Anyway, regardless, this is a really good book. Really happy to see more Hino finally in English, and we have more coming up from Starfruit Books. I am so excited about their ongoing horror line and everything else that they're hoping to put out. Yeah, this was great. Have a one-shot from Viz that, when it was announced, I was so excited for. It had been floating around on social media for a long time, and having read it, I was not disappointed. I really loved every single one of the stories in this short story collection, but this is Oto Tora's To Strip the Flesh. The one thing I will say is that I don't know why they changed the cover for this. It kind of bums me out because I really don't think this cover gives much credit to the stories itself. For those who don't know anything about this, as I said, it is a short story collection, but multiple of the short stories is about this particular character here. Who is a trans man, but has grown up not only closeted, but like actively hiding themselves from their father, who is a hunter, because of their kind of tumultuous relationship, but also he wanting to get his father's approval and not, you know, worry his dad whilst they're living together. But oh my god, it's so good. It's such a wonderful story looking at gender and also like gender socialization. This idea that our main character, he's never been able to go out hunting with his father despite always wanting to, because, you know, his dad sees him as a girl and girls don't go out hunting, like it's not appropriate, it's a men's thing, blah blah blah. Like that aspect I think was really done. Also the ongoing hurt of not wanting to disappoint or hurt or, you know, go against someone you care about, but in doing so you're not valuing yourself and you're actively hurting yourself, I think was a wonderful aspect and done really well. The way that dysphoria is portrayed is quite poignant and very effective. The allyship in this is wonderful as well. Our main character, he has a friend who has known about him being trans since, you know, middle school or high school or whatever it was, and he's always been very supportive in helping him and like making him feel normal. And it's just it's like good. It's so good. There's a reason that this has made such waves across social media, both in Japan and in English. And I highly recommend it, even for just that main story. And then the other stories are really good as well. There's a story about like a delinquent who just gets really annoyed at his mother for having just this fake positivity. And there's a story about a grandmother of an idol and her being his biggest fan. And there's a story of a miniature statue of David model who falls in love with the little girl that he's gifted to. But because it's a statue of David and kind of, you know, like it's a naked man sculpture, she's just like, what is this? Ew, Dad, gross. And how that kind of all works out. It's really good. Really, really good. I shall show you inside. I really, really enjoyed this book a whole lot. I also really cannot wait because, so for those who don't know, Tora was a assistant to Tatsuki Fujimoto of Chainsaw Man and Fire Punch fame, and, you know, the other things that he's put out over his other one-shots that he's put out over the last couple years. But the upcoming one-shot that Fujimoto is working on, it's in collaboration with Tora. So having read this, enjoyed it so much, obviously being a big fan of Fujimoto, I'm so excited. I'm so hyped for that. I cannot wait until it's put out. But similarly, like so much, yet another really wonderful, interesting creator coming from Fujimoto's team. For those who don't know, Yuji Kaku is also a former assistant of Fujimoto and editor, maybe? They have a pretty close relationship and have you know, worked together a lot. That's the creator of Hell's Paradise. There's someone else as well, and Dandadan. That creator was also an assistant to Fujimoto. I haven't disliked any of their series, any of their series, at all. Full stop. So I'm very, very happy about this kind of new group of up-and-coming creators who are making such impacts and finding such success. It's really good, and I recommend this series. I know Pride Month has just ended, but if you're looking for a pretty well-balanced, nuanced look of, you know, trans narratives and gender dysphoria, I'm not going to speak to Tora's gender identity, but they do talk about extensively in the author's, you know, the author's note at the end, their own feelings of dysphoria growing up, and a lot of the imagery or a lot of the actions that our main character in this takes in regards to how they perceive their own body was very much drawn from the creator's own personal experience. So I think, you know, I don't know, it's not an Own Voices work, but I do think that it has some more nuance than would otherwise, you know, be from someone who hasn't necessarily experienced gender dysphoria. Anyway, read it. It's really good. The shot that I got is also pretty in line with Pride Month having just finished. I read it during Pride Month, and it was released in Pride Month. But this is the manga adaptation of Until I Meet My Husband by Ryusuke Nanasaki and Yoshi Suzuki. the artist is a BL artist, and this is based off of the memoir written by Ryosuke Nanosaki, who is a gay marriage, like a very prominent gay marriage advocate in Japan. He and his husband were the first religiously recognized gay marriage in Japan. They were married in 2015, 2016. And so this is a manga, again, based off of the memoir of his life, kind of leading to that point. It's the story of him kind of realizing his sexuality and his struggle with, you know, relationships, and kind of him becoming more comfortable with himself, flip-flopping between, you know, falling for his straight friends to just jumping into gay relationships because, you know, he doesn't know very many gay people and he doesn't want to be alone, until ultimately finding the person that he wants to spend his life with, which has, for him, was always his dream. Well, not necessarily. So for him, his dream was always to have, like, a big wedding, to be celebrated, to, you know, have this recognition of a relationship. But he was really hyper-focused on the idea of a wedding, more so than, like, getting married because you want to be with that person forever. Marriage as, you know, a recognition of a couple's want to stay together, which isn't something he realizes until, like, he doesn't realize that he's not thinking about that aspect until he does meet the man who would later become his husband, or who is currently his husband, I should say, who, when they talk about it, he says, like, well, a wedding is, you know, I think you need to find the person that you want to spend your life with, more so than, like, this idea that you want a wedding. Because if you're just wanting a wedding and you're happy, you'll settle for anyone, then you're not going to be happy, right? Like, you have to find the person that makes you happy, and then you have the wedding. Which I think gives him perspective and clarity on his goals, but then, you know, counterpoint for his husband. You know, his attitude towards marriage and his hope and wish and dream for marriage is something that he really respects and gives him hope as well, because as a gay man, he just kind of expected that marriage would never happen for him. And so ultimately, like, when their relationship you know, eventuates, it's something that they come to together. And that's why marriage and gay marriage is such a large portion of this book, and their advocacy and their business. So the two of them, as well as some of the Nanasaki's friends, they have a group to give queer couples the opportunity for weddings, you know, to allow them to live this fantasy, or to have this amazing, fantastic day that is kind of expected for cis-het people, but up until very, very recently wasn't recognized in Japan. And things are slowly changing, you know, gay rights and gay marriage and partnership recognition is getting better and better all of the time, and it's because of the hard work from people like Nanosaki. This isn't, like, the most brilliant change your life book of all time, but it is an interesting insight to, obviously, this person who does have a very large presence within the queer community in Japan and advocacy groups. But I also just think it's a really lovely story of someone being true to themselves, being true to what they want and what they believe in, and finding the people that support him in that. Not only his husband, but also his friends and the people that he's come out to who do accept him. And it also doesn't like sugarcoat the inherent, like the ongoing societal homophobia and even kind of the self-hatred that a lot of gay men in Japan have had, or may even still have, of, you know, not accepting themselves because of the social outcast aspect of it. I think it's very good. It's definitely worth a read. For a lot of people, especially, you know, queer people outside of Japan, I don't think it's teaching you anything new. I don't think it's like informative. It is more so just a person's experience and them recounting their life that led them to what was and is like a very prominent change and recognition and win, quote unquote, for gay rights in Japan. Yeah, it's good. It's beautiful as well. I think the art is wonderful and definitely worth the read. I haven't yet read the novel just because it's longer and I haven't had a huge amount of time. I didn't get it until very recently. But I'd be interested and I said this in the most recent Read Right to Left podcast as well. I'd be interested to read and see like what was chosen to be adapted from the memoir to the manga, because obviously that would be longer versus the manga. And so what was deemed as like the most important aspects and how the experience changes between reading the two. So I will have to report back on that, but I did like this. I liked it quite a bit for what it is. Another one-shot that I got this month is from Yen Press. I enjoyed the previous work from this creator that we got from Yen, so I wanted to try this out. And I really enjoyed this one. I didn't really know what to expect going in, but I laughed. I like choked up. I think it's all around a really, really good little book, and one that I'm hoping indicates we get more from this creator. But this is Yama Wayama's Let's Go Karaoke. It's sort of a comedy coming of age story about a high schooler? Maybe he's a middle schooler. Yeah, middle school. Middle school kid who is like very well regarded. He's on the school choir team club. He's on the school choir. Why did I think that there needed to be another word after that? He's in the choir, but he's kind of struggling with himself because his voice is starting to change. Obviously, that's what happens in puberty for most, if not all cishet dudes. But because of that, obviously he's not able to have this, you know, beautiful tone that he's been known for. So he's kind of going through this crisis of self because he sees himself as one thing, and obviously that's changing. Anyway, he runs in, or he's kind of like poached by this guy, much older guy, who is a member of, or an officer of a local Yakuza group. And he says, "Hey kid, you're really good at singing. Can you teach me how to sing? Because our boss, like every year we have this sing-off, this karaoke contest, and whoever loses, the boss like gives a tattoo to. And they're not good tattoos. They're normally the stuff that you hate the most. And I really don't want to lose. Please, help me out." And This is just some, like, poor 14-year-old. He doesn't really know what's going on. So he is dragged into this situation, kind of against his will. But over time, kind of grows this odd little relationship with this Yakuza member, whilst, again, struggling with his own personal, issues of growing up and his perception, and also like the role that music plays in his life and the expectations that everyone has for him. It's really good. It's really good. I enjoyed it. I giggled. I thought the idea, or the way that the aspect of like growing up, especially with such a literal change as in like voice changing, was done really well. And those two weirdos are fun to read. So I, once again, really enjoyed Wayama's style with this. I don't think I showed inside. She has very expressive characters. I think. But it's a good time. It's a good time, and it kind of plays with that little dark humor a lot as well. I hope that we get more from this mangaka, because both that I've read so far have been really wonderful. So yeah, check it out if it sounds like something that you're interested in. I don't think it's necessarily like a must read, but it's very enjoyable for what it is. Have the debuts. So this are the titles that were released, that have just started. I haven't read this first one because I just got it the other day, but it's one that I'm really looking forward to. I have the next couple volumes on order as well. And from what I have seen from kind of general sentiment and reviews, it's really well received. I know it's very popular in Japan, but this is One Dance by Coffee, volume 1, obviously. This is the story of a tall high school boy. I don't know if he's particularly shy, but he does have a stutter, which I would presume means he's a little bit more withdrawn. Discovering that he can express himself through dance, which is something he struggles with through words because of his stutter. As I said, I haven't read this one, but I'm really looking forward to it. Okay, so he is a shy teenager. Good thing my guesses are correct. But I've seen panels of this kind of floating around for a long time. As I said, it's quite popular in Japan. So I'm looking forward to checking it out. It looks and sounds like something I'm definitely interested in. So yeah, I can't wait to get into it. Debut is one from Seven Seas. This is one that caught my eye when it was first announced, but it wasn't like necessarily high on my priority list. But I, like always, wanted to give the first volume a try, especially because it does seem kind of my thing. This is Nightfall Travelers, Leave Only Footprints by Tomohi. It's a very skinny book. It's about two high school girls who live in this kind of like weird town. There's a lot of mysterious ghost stories and legends surrounding the area, and one of our main characters, she has been assigned by the newspaper club, of which she is a member of, to go, investigate all of these weird mysteries. And although she's a big scaredy cat herself, she decides, kind of on a spur of a moment, to invite the new transfer student to accompany her around this town, so they can, strengthen numbers, but also as a way to, introduce this area to the new kid. But this transfer student might just have a bit of mystery herself. Yeah, I really liked this. I don't it kind of started a little bit slow for me, but was enjoying it, and then it got to a particular chapter and it just took my breath away. This definitely is within Seven Seas' like wheelhouse. A lot of Yuri vibes for those that may be interested in that. I really liked this, and by the end of the first volume, I was totally on board. I'm looking forward to more volumes of this. It's just it reminds me a little bit of, like, Natsume in a sense, if it was a little more kind of creepy occult. I think there's just this very soothing aspect. It, more than anything, is a slice of life with that kind of a little bit of supernatural twist, potentially. But I really enjoyed this one, and I think it is worth checking out if it sounds like something you're interested in. The final debut that I got for this month was another one that was on my radar, and another one that was really good for Pride Month, actually, is I Want to Be a Wall by Honomi Shirono. This is the story of a asexual fujoshi and her marriage to a closeted gay man who is in love with his childhood best friend and has always been, and their relationship together. And I really, really liked this book a whole lot. I think it portrays so well how meaningful a queer platonic relationship can be, how within their marriage, you know, there's no romantic or sexual attraction between these two, but there is love. They do care about each other, or at least there might not be love necessarily right now. They're only a month or so into their marriage, but they care about each other enough to want to help and support and be with this other person. And they found someone who understands them and that they can be themselves with. And I think it's just done really, really well. For our main character, she's asexual, so obviously doesn't feel sexual attraction, but she also doesn't feel romantic attraction. So she's personally never kind of had a crush or wanted to be in a relationship at any point. And for our main male character, as mentioned, he's in love with his straight best friend, always has been, doesn't really expect to not be. I think he's just kind of, you know, accepted that this is his lot in life, which is also sad. Like, dude, you could move on and find someone else who's also important to you. But in a way he has, through this woman, and although their relationship or their marriage isn't built off of, you know, the expected, you marry someone because, again, you're romantically and sexually interested in them, it doesn't mean that they don't care about each other, and it doesn't mean that their marriage is any less valid than anyone else's. I really appreciated how sweet this was, how willing both parties were to find out more about the other person. And again, that's really showing some great kind of examples of the strength of a relationship and how long-lasting relationships work. It isn't, you know, sexual attraction can fade, or does often fade. Time goes by, your emotion and your attraction and affection for people will change. Even the people that you care most about and those who you marry. We know that marriage isn't like the golden ticket to happily ever after. Very much not the case. But a relationship built on a foundation and of trust and open communication, although their relationship isn't typical, I think it portrays a lot of aspects that kind of get taken for granted when talking about, you know, more generalized cis marriage, cishet marriage, I should say. Yeah, it's especially considering, again, like, gay marriage has just recently kind of been accepted in Japan. There's still a lot of stigma around queerness, although that is changing, and very happily so. But I don't think it's invalid that these two people who ultimately kind of accepted that their like a life of loneliness found each other and decided to figure something out. Because, again, regardless of whether or not they're romantically or sexually attracted to each other, it doesn't mean that their friendship, their support, their understanding of each other is any less valid. And the allyship for each other is just really wonderful to see. Oh, it's really sweet. It's really sweet. And if you want something like quite heartwarming, with a pretty wonderful look at especially asexual representation, asexual aromantic representation, I should say, then check this one out. It's good. Have finales, so, well, I guess this one's kind of a finale. Only one book, though, that finished this month, or one series, I should say, that finished this month, and that is Chainsaw Man Volume 11 by Tatsuki Fujimoto. Although this series is finally returning to us in July, which is very exciting. Yeah, I mean, what to say? This is the story of a teenage boy who makes a deal with his devil dog in order to, well, survive, and then gets roped into fighting devils as Chainsaw Man. And so much happens. It's dark, there's violent, it's fantastic. I love Fujimoto's work so much. I've already waxed poetic already in this video about it, but Chainsaw Man has a fantastic conclusion to this first part of the story. I cannot wait for the return of Chainsaw Man. I'm really looking forward to it. But this series just continues to be wonderful. I'm looking forward to the anime adaptation as well. Check it out if you haven't, although I think I'm talking kind of to a wall at this point. Everyone knows Chainsaw Man. Everyone, I'm sure, has in some capacity, if not tried it, heard about it and decided, you know, it's something they want to try or not for them. But it is fantastic, and yeah, nice to have this first part at least wrapped up. Now, on to ongoing books, and there's quite a few here. So, we have Volume 17 of Full Metal Alchemist, the Full Metal Edition. This is the penultimate volume. Yeah, I mean, what more to say? Hiromu Arakawa's classic shonen action story of two brothers and their hunt for the Philosopher's Stone, their wish to regain their bodies, and over the course of the series, their need to save the country, the world, and the people around them. I love the series with all of my being, and it just continues to be fantastic right up until the end. Can't believe we're getting so close to the end with this one, in this new fancy edition, but we'll be really excited when the last one comes out, and I'm gonna reread it all again, because that's just how I roll. But yeah, I mean, Fullmetal Alchemist is, everyone knows this one. Again, this doesn't need an introduction. You either know it and already enjoy it, or you know it and, you know, aren't that interested in it. So, you know, for me, I love it. It's one of my favorite series, and so I'm very, very happy we've gotten this most recent volume. Another penultimate volume, and oh my gosh! Okay, so this is one of the first volumes that I hadn't read. I think it's the first, no. Volume 10 was the first of these volumes that I hadn't read digitally. This, obviously, is the next one, and then it concludes in the next volume. And, so this is Perfect World by Rei Aruga. A romance story between an able-bodied woman and her now husband, who is in a wheelchair after getting a spinal injury in his early 20s. They knew each other in high school and reconnected during their reunion, that's the word. And, ups and downs of a relationship, and now are married, and over the last volume have been trying to start a family, which was complicated by Itsuki's disability. And so now are in the process of adoption, and that's what this volume is all about. And oh my God, guys, it's so good. When our couple finally kind of finalized the adoption, and it was so sweet, and I think it kind of epitomized the positives of what this story represents, of how families come in all sorts of shapes and sizes, as people come in all sorts of shapes and sizes and with different needs, and the amount of love and care that these two have for each other, the way that they've overcome so much over the course of their lives and relationship is just, exemplified with this particular aspect as well. And I'm just always so happy when things work out for them, because everything they do is really well balanced. There's a great amount of communication there, and the ways that this couple have to talk about things that other, quote unquote, more normal couples don't, is just kind of highlights the importance of that communication and being upfront with your needs and with the person that you care about. And it took a little while for them to get to that point, but I think now that they've finally gotten to this openness and being able to be very emotionally genuine with each other and voice their fears, voice their apprehensions, their excitement, all of these things, and it's just done really well. We also have a side story with this one with, I don't remember his name. The other guy, the rival male love interest in this, who obviously hasn't really, he's been in the series since, but he's not a huge aspect of it. There's a side story pertaining to him and a young woman who he meets she works part-time at the place where he always goes to get lunch for work. And they're kind of run into each other, they're friends, they are introduced through a mutual friend, and the kind of possibilities for a relationship there, and her own accessibility story. She is also disabled, which isn't as necessarily obvious as a wheelchair is, but yeah, this is really good, and I know that I'm probably gonna cry in the next volume. Probably gonna cry. Ongoing new volume that I got was volume 18 of What Did You Eat Yesterday by Fumi Yoshinaga. One of my favorite mangaka. Oh my goodness. One of my favorite mangaka. And regardless of whether volumes are falling over or not. And as always, this is the story of a gay couple in Tokyo. And the food, the meals that they make, and just kind of their day-to-day lives as well. Over the course of this series, we have followed these two for a long time. They are now entering their 60s. They kind of met in their late 30s, early 40s. And man, oh man, yeah, just the amount of like domesticity that this series continues to have. Their relationships with friends and their family is always so and work colleagues and things like that is always so wonderful. And of course, like with all good Yoshinaga stories, it's also about how important food is for relationships, how meals kind of emphasize community and connection, and throughout history that's always been how people gather together for meals and socialize, and that's something that is very prominent in all of Yoshinaga's series, but this one more so than any of her other works, I'd argue. It's fantastically good, and just continues to be so. Next, we have Volume 2 of Blackguard by Ryo Hanada, creator of Devil's Line, which is a series I really enjoy. This one's been really interesting too. It's a dystopic sci-fi of a future wherein there's like a monkey virus going on. There's... Hanada really has some interesting, explorations of relationship and relationships and love and different aspects of humanity and what it means to care about people in quite like, yeah, dystopic or horrific settings. It's really interesting. This one's a shorter series. It's only 5 volumes, but I look forward to... I'm really keen to read the rest of the series. It's been very good so far, and every time, you learn something, another mystery pops up, and I just really enjoy Hanada's exploration of humanity in these settings. And I really hope that Vertical / Kodansha licenses the Devil's Line sequel, because I will buy that. Yeah, it's really good and worth checking out if you haven't tried it yet. We have an older series, one that, again, I recently kind of got quite a few volumes from, and this is some more secondhand copies that I was able to find, and for an alright price, decent price. This is volume 13 and 14 of Swan by Kyoko Arayoshi. 14 is quite a bit more beat up than 13. It is ex-library. I've taken the stickers off, so it does look fine. But this is the incomplete in English dance or ballet shoujo put out by CMX many years ago, that I haven't even started yet. It only ever got 15 volumes in English. I do have here right now in this room with me volumes 3 to 14 now, and I do have volumes 1 and 2 with my US proxy, and volume 15, so I do have the full run, but I don't have those first couple volumes, so I just actually can't even start reading it yet. But I'm hoping to get that proxy shipped out to me soon, so hopefully I can actually read this series. It is a shame that so many of these kind of less known or like unusual older shoujo series do tend to be forgotten and incomplete in English, but whenever I find some or part of these titles, I do try to pick them up where I can, and I've been quite successful in that so far, so Swan just being the most recent example, but I've also had luck finding various volumes of from Uroka with Love. I have the full run of Bride of Deimos. Why did that? And I'm looking right at it. Why couldn't I think of the name? It's and a couple others that Moonchild is the other big one. But yeah, I've had some pretty good luck, and obviously it does help that I'm not averse to secondhand and ex-library volumes. So I look forward to reading this once I get the opportunity. Is another couple volumes of another series, much newer, but I finally got the volume that I was missing, so I could read a whole bunch of titles, or a whole bunch of volumes all at once, and that is volume 34 and 36 of Yona of the Dawn. I already have 35, I got that last month, by Mizuho Kusanagi. Man, oh my god, this long-running political thriller shoujo action is fantastic. It's one of my favorite ongoing works. This whole arc of Yona and Swan's past and their parents' past and their relationships and ongoing mysteries being resolved and awoken is so good. It's so good. I love Yona so much. It's such a good series. One of the longer series in my collection, as many people know. I've said it before, but there's only a few titles that I really am passionate enough about to continue following, especially once they hit like the 30 volume mark. This one is one of them. Haikyuu was another one. There's a couple others, but typically, like, my sweet spot for most manga is like 15, maybe 20 volumes, but typically between 10 and 20. And so when a series, you know, captures my attention and I love so much, continues on, that's really the only time that I will follow a longer running title, especially an ongoing long title like this one. There's others. If Chihayafuru ever made its way to print, I would drop everything and just be extremely happy with that. But Yona is fantastic, and again, one that I don't think needs much of an introduction. Check it out if you haven't. The anime is good too, but the manga, in my opinion, is so much better because the anime is more of like the prologue to the series itself than what the series is. So yeah, read Yona. Shoujo Beat title this month with volume 19 of Sorata Akidoki Snow White with the Red Hair. This one was really interesting. It focused a lot on Kiki and Mitsuhide's relationship and just kind of the weird aspects of loyalty and fealty that they have to Zen, but also to each other, and regardless of their personal romantic feelings for each other, there's always like this underlying element of being, you know, the right hand aides to one of the royal family. It was good. This is good. Snow White with the Red Hair is always good. I love this series so much. We also have our main trio, quote unquote, of Zen and Obi and Shiryuki together once again, which is always fun to read. It is so good. I think it's been really satisfying to see how these characters have changed and adapted over time, especially separated from each other. There's been a prolonged amount of time where they haven't been able to interact directly. And so now that like Kiki and Mitsuhide's storyline has kind of come full circle, we've had some finality with a lot of the political, like, ongoing political upheaval stuff. This is an ongoing series. I know there's still several more volumes having been released in Japan, but it's one that always seems to surprise me with the direction that it goes. It's always very satisfying and really enjoyable to read about these characters. They're a good bunch, to put it mildly. It's been just really fun, and I can't wait for volume 20. Last, for the kind of general standard size tankobon ongoing stuff, we also have Black Butler. This is volume 31 by Yana Toboso. This wraps up Meirin and Ranmao's story arc. It starts up this guy, what's his name? Baldo. Baldo's story arc in regards to this ongoing stuff. And it's been nice kind of learning more about the various servants within the Phantom Hive group. Those that have been there since the beginning, I should say. Lots of action, lots of mystery, again, lots of like past history of characters. It's a good time. Things are ticking away. It's very enjoyable, and I don't know, man. There's a lot of moral gray here, which is what I think this series has always been good for. Like, you know, this series isn't perfect. It has its issues. It's also got like various aspects that I don't personally like, and sometimes comedy is quite heavy-handed. It's not a perfect series, but I do always appreciate the nuance with which the morality is presented. This is a series with a lot of complicated characters with a lot of their own personal interests trying to be met, and that aspect is always really interesting to me. I really have been enjoying how this plays out. I'm not going to say that I know everything that's going to happen, because I certainly don't, but it's been interesting to see how much has been foreshadowed, how much of this story has been told without realizing it. And yeah, it's one that isn't like my most favorite series of all time, but I do really enjoy it whenever I get a new volume. It's always really super intriguing, and some of its highs, some of its best story beats and parts have been ones that have just really stuck with me and continue to stay with me as I read more and more. So we have volume 4 of Skip and Loafer by Misaki Takamatsu. Story of two high schoolers, kind of opposites attract, slow burn romance, friendship, and all the various other kids, you know, that they're friends with, and as things are going. I haven't read this one yet, so I can't speak to this volume in particular, but it's a very charming series with some very likable kids who, again, aren't that similar, but have this really wonderful friendship, who try to understand each other in all aspects, as well as like just the larger friend group as well. This series is getting an anime adaptation, and I am looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it because this one's sweet, and I hope more people try it because it's very, very good, and it's really positive, very upbeat, and kind of highlights the importance of different people connecting and different perspectives and experiences, and how you don't have to be identical to other people to be accepted by them. It's just a good time. It's just really sweet. And also from Seven Seas, this is the most recent volume of Kageki Shoujo by Kumiko Saeki. This is volume 6. I don't think 7's out yet. This is the story of a girl Sarasa, who is trying to join the Takarazuka, so she's going through training, and all the other various girls who are trying to do the same. It's really, really good. Good look into kind of the performing arts world and the strict nature of Takarazuka, but also like celebrity culture just generally. In a celebration of art and women within the arts. It reminds me a lot of Skip Beat, actually. So if you enjoy that, you probably like this one too. I just like stories about acting. So this has been a really fun one for me. It has some really brilliant moments of between these young women and their passions and their relationships to each other, and it's just, yeah, overwhelmingly really good. I definitely recommend it. We have a couple BL titles, both from Seven Seas. The first one is Volume 3 of Seaside Stranger, Harukaze no Étranger by Kaneki, or Ki Kana. This is just the continuation of the series. Our main couple is in the city visiting our main character's family. Lots of ups and downs with this. Obviously, there's some ongoing issues with, you know, acceptance of their relationship from certain members of the family, and also like the complicated nature of this family situation in general. Our main character, he has an adopted younger brother, and seeing like how he fits into this whole new dynamic. Like, he didn't even realize that this kid was there. That's how estranged he's been from his family over the last several years, decade. But similarly to some other titles, I think it really highlights how family comes in all sorts of different shapes and sizes, and, you know, you're not always going to see eye to eye generally, but having, like, working to acceptance and, you know, wanting the best for the people you care about, especially from, like, a child's perspective, is done quite well. I'm looking forward to the next volume of this, and yeah, it just continues to be really, really good. Yeah, one of, I would say, the standout titles from Seven Seas' BL catalogue. Another from Seven Seas' BL releases for this month is, I haven't read this one yet, but this is Obi, the most recent entry to the Classmate series, Occupation to Beloved by Asamiku Nakamura. This is a 2-in-1 omnibus, collected as just volume 5, which continues our main character's relationship, but also several of their friends and other associates that they are aware of or know. So yeah, lots of goodness and lots to enjoy. As I said, I haven't read this one yet, but it's on the pile. I'll probably actually get to it today because I really enjoy Nakamura's works. I really like the Classmate series. Even the stuff that isn't, like, necessarily, you know, what I normally read for BL, or just generally in romance. I do always appreciate her take on things, and I think as a whole it's very, very well done. I encourage everyone to try at least the main Classmate / Graduate series if you are interested, and I'm looking forward to future releases of the series because we do have at least one more coming. This is one that Nakamura tends to go back to quite a bit. Here we have the novels that I got this month. Light novels. First up is the second or third Fullmetal Alchemist light novel re-release. This is The Abducted Alchemist by Makoto Inoue with art by Arakawa. It's exactly the same pretty much as the original release. I'm sure I haven't, you know, done a chapter by chapter comparison. I'm sure the translation is and writing style is updated a little bit from the original, as that was very focused and aimed at, like, you know, young FMA fans. It's not like a very in-depth type of story. It's very to the point, which is actually very good because that's, you know, Fullmetal Alchemist is a shonen series for younger people. It doesn't need to be that complicated or difficult or confronting or whatever. Yeah, but I really, you know, as a big FMA fan, I decided to pick up these new releases of these light novels. I had the original 5 for a long time. I just recently sold them, actually. But nice to get these new editions, especially as we have gotten, like, the newer book as well. So, yeah, just kind of completing the FMA collection, as it were. We have a yen on title. This is volume 1 of Sabikui Bisco by Shinji Kobukubo. This is, I've read a little while ago. I actually had to replace my copy of this because my first copy came quite damaged. But this was really, really good. It's the story of Rust Eater Bisco, who is a mushroom keeper, and therefore a wanted outlaw in this kind of post-apocalyptic Japan setting. And he one day runs into a local doctor called Milo, who runs the Panda Clinic because he's got like a black birthmark around his eye. And the two decide to team up in order to find the Rust Eater mushroom, which is able to consume, like, make a medicine that can consume this rust that has, over the past decades, kind of overtaken the world, if not just Japan, and caused this dystopia. And when people are afflicted with rust, they slowly die, you know, and turn into metal and rust. So both these main characters have people important to them who are afflicted with the rust. And so, as I said, they paired up to try and solve this problem together. And oh my god, this is a very gay book. Bisco and Milo have a very close relationship, and I haven't seen the anime, so I can't speak to that. But this first volume felt very whole and complete. I know the whole series is about 8 volumes long in its entirety, so I'm really interested to see what they do for the future. But man, oh man, these two are kind of sworn partners in a lot of senses, and yeah, it's kind of interesting in how blatant it is. But yeah, it's very good, and I will be picking up the next one because I'm interested to see what happens next. Have volume 4 from Seven Seas, or Airship more particularly, is of The Haunted Bookstore, Gateway to a Parallel Universe by Shinobu Maru. This is a 6-volume light novel series about a human girl who was raised within the yokai world, and a former teen exorcist who has found himself in the yokai world now. And there are, like, various yokai and people that they come across. I've only read the first 2 so far, but it's very good, very much my thing. I really, like, very often these books, as they start as web novels, they have kind of short stories interspersed, and honestly, some of those short stories are, like, the most poignant parts of this series. It's very interesting, but it's generally, like, very, very sentimental. There's a lot of focus on relationships and connections and the importance of stories and forgiveness and understanding. And again, this kind of mismatched pace of humanity and these, like, inhuman creatures, and what that means when they are close and when they do care about each other. I mean, it's exactly my thing. We knew that G would enjoy this, and I have continued to enjoy this. I say it's a light novel, it is, but unlike some other web novels that have jumped into light novels print editions, this doesn't have any illustrations throughout, compared to like Ascendance of a Bookworm or really any of them. Even like Danmai, we've seen illustrations being inserted, but not with this series, and I don't know whether that's just because of, this obviously isn't a hugely notable title in Japan or here, and I don't really mind. It's just kind of a little bit of a curiosity. But it does have beautiful covers, so, it's still well worth artistically looking at. Seven Seas, and this one is just printed under Seven Seas because it's a novel, I guess, not a light novel specifically, and that is Ryosuke Nanasaki's Until I Meet My Husband. I talked about the manga version of this in the same video, so this is just the novelization, or the memoir that manga is based off of. This is Nanasaki and his husband on the front cover there, and as mentioned, he and his partner were the first religiously recognized same-sex marriage in Japan. So they, which is quite a large step for gay rights when it happened. But yeah, I haven't read this one. I'm looking forward to reading it though, and it's interesting to see, like, even in Japan, how much the world has changed since 2016 when these two got married to now, especially like in this post-COVID world, but also with how much gay rights and like partnerships have been expanded and accepted over the years. And I look forward to reading this one. Another one that was good timing wise with Pride Month. Another Seven Seas title, but this is their Danmai. This is the second volume of the Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation, Modal Zushi. This is the Yi City storyline, which in the like animated adaptation is in the third season. Like, it's way past this. So the way that the animated version adapted the series was like out of order with the novel, but I think it actually works a little bit better that way. I don't know, I haven't read this one yet, but this does follow pretty directly from the first novel, so I would expect that makes the most sense. I don't know how much, I guess in the third volume is when this series kind of dives a bit more into the backstory and histories of these characters, like the time outside of quote-unquote current day for the characters, when it will jump back for the 16-ish years that when Wei Wuxian was originally running around as the Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation. So a little bit out of order insofar as adaptation, but I think both are valid ways of telling the story, and I think for the adaptation of the animation, it was more important to get to that backstory, that foundational stuff, than like the current mystery stuff, which is what this is. But yeah, I love this series. I really enjoy MXTX's 3 very popular series. I'm not like I've said this before, I'm not the most prolific Danmai fan. I don't really know a huge amount about titles that aren't like extremely popular. I don't read fan translations in general, so I just wait for official versions where available. And for all their faults, I think it's been really nice to see a larger publisher like Seven Seas make the jump to Danmai. And hopefully we see more of it. And hopefully we continue to get high quality, high standard for these releases, because it's proving to be a very profitable business for companies, and they would be foolish to not capitalize where they can. everything. Let me know your thoughts, feelings, opinions on any of the titles that I talked about. Have you read any of them? How do you feel about some of these amazing debuts that we've seen over the last month? So many appropriate titles for Pride Month as well. It's been an interesting year, and despite the ongoing issues with Seven Seas and thankfully their recent acceptance of the union, I'm now happy to be able to like talk about their titles, because I think they're like, I do like a lot of the titles that they publish, and there was never a boycott for them. And I've said this on social media, I'm a little bit cynical insofar as that I think a lot of it was messaging, and I think the union was always going to be accepted regardless. That's neither here nor there, but I think it's a relief to be able to say that they've recognized the union, and it is a win, despite, again, my cynicism as to how genuine fan backlash was in regarding that win, or influencing that win. But it's a good thing. Unions are a good thing, and I am very happy for it. But yeah, I don't really know, aside from my other various pre-orders and things, I don't really know what's coming for the next month. But we're halfway through the year. Oh my goodness. I'm currently doing a collection reassessment. I've gone through a lot of my animes in particular, but manga is next on the list to parse through. I don't think I'll be losing a lot from the current collection, but I think it's always nice to look at what you have with new eyes, and I'm trying to do that very proactively. I will also have an updated collection video coming soon. I give no promises as to when, but within the next couple weeks, if not sooner. So keep an eye out for that. Otherwise, thank you guys so much for watching. You can follow me here on YouTube. You can also find me on Twitter at G_reads. I post on a semi-frequent basis on this channel, both with videos like this, art book overviews, first impressions, things like that, as well as the monthly podcast that I do with my good friend Ray from Whimsical Pictures. We just did a episode about autobiographical manga or memoir. So check that one out if you haven't. And otherwise, yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be kind to yourself, stay healthy, look after you know, the people in your lives, and be nice to people, right? Like, the world and life is hard enough as it is. It's been rough. It's been a rough year so far, so just be conscientious, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye till then.